Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon,
And I'm Mom.
and welcome back to Tansson Talks TV. I'm always so glad to have you all here, and of course, you, Mom. How are you doing today?
Actually, I'm doing fine today. Thank you for asking.
Of course. And so I'm so excited to get into today's episode of our series. And so this is the first one that we're trying out our brand new basket.
Yes, we are. Basket is right here.
So what we decided to do for this first one is we went ahead and watched a couple of shows we knew that we were going to do in here, and we're just gonna pull one. I'm gonna have you pull one out of random, and we're gonna figure out which show we're going to speak about today.
Basket's right here. I'm going to pull the lid off and pull out a show. Call Me Cat.
All right, we are
Okay.
going to do
Um,
Call Me Cat.
all right. Just so everyone knows, we tend to have notes around when we speak, so we've got to find our notes for that particular show. All right. I found mine, Brand.
So this is the first episode of Call Me Cat that we are doing that came out on January 3rd of 2021. The episode called Plus One.
Yes. And I guess our viewers will probably be shocked to know that we're actually moving right on ahead with the year that the show came out.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty excited to get into this one in particular. One of my, I suppose, favorite free shows that came out that year.
Yes, I know. It's exciting to talk about a show that's actually, I mean, even though it's just in it, but that we've seen recently.
Yeah. So, are you able to go ahead and, well, actually, before you give us our synopsis, I did want to say for both of us, we have both seen the show all the way through from start to finish.
Yes,
So,
we have. We did.
yeah.
And we watched it live at the time, and we actually watched each episode each week.
Yes. I think the only episode we did not see live was this first episode. We saw it a few days afterwards.
Yes, yes. I think at the time we weren't quite sure what the show was going to be about, so we just kind of taped it to see what would happen.
Yeah, but like I said, I know I'm very excited to get into this. I'm going to go ahead and let you do the synopsis to this first episode of Call Me Cat from Warner Bros. Television.
I sure will, Brandon. In this particular episode, it begins with a character named Kat. Kat is her name is Catherine. She actually owns a cat cafe. It begins with her mother being in her apartment or coming to her apartment, indicating that Kat has been invited to a wedding with one of her friends for one of her friends. And Kat is 39 years old, and her mother emphasizes that a lot, as to indicate that Kat needs to be married and to have some children. And so, or asking her what she's doing with her life. But anyway, so Kat actually owns a cat cafe. She decided to take this job or to kind of move into this job once her father passed away. Um, Kat was previously a math professor, and so after her father passed away, she kind of made this career move, and so she owns this cat cafe where she has two employees. One of the employees is named Phil. The other one's name is Randy, and both of them are waiters slash waitresses slash hostess slash baker for this particular cafe, whereas Kat is the manager of it. And yes, like it implies, there are a lot of cats that kind of roam around the cafe also. Next door or very close to the cafe, there is a bar, and the owner of the bar is Carter. And then, and Carter's friend Max has just moved back to town. Max is actually a friend of Kat's also, but Kat has not seen him in a very long time. Apparently, they knew each other in school. I'm assuming college, but they knew each other in school years ago. Um, to go back to the plot of this particular episode, Kat was invited to a wedding and she was allowed to bring a plus one. And so she, of course, is not dating anyone at this time. And she decides to bring her friend Phil, who part owner, who is, of course, works for the cat cafe. She brings Phil because he has just broken up with his boyfriend. And so he's a little bit, he's not depressed, but he's a little bit, he's having a little bit of a time. So she decides to bring him, and he's very excited to go to this particular event. Apparently, it's at a hotel that he's heard a lot about. And so, but Tara, the friend who actually is the person who is having this wedding slash renewal of vows that we find out later, um, really only wants Kat to bring someone if she's someone she's really dating, and she is not dating Phil. But Phil is so excited that she brings Phil anyway. And so Phil and Kat really have an enjoyable time at the particular wedding, at this wedding. The friend is not that thrilled because she didn't really want to pay for someone who was not a significant other of Kat. And so, but regardless, they had a good time. And, um, and then Max comes by later on. Max is the, like I said, the gentleman who she liked previously, but is now just moved back into the area. Max comes a little later, and then he also takes her out to dinner a little later that evening. So that kind of puts the plot all together. It's quite a few characters introduced at one time, but they do a good job of establishing everyone. The personalities come out on this particular episode, so they do a nice job of just kind of introducing the cast.
Well, as always, thank you so much for the synopsis.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot I think I can take away from this episode. And I mean, like, I took a full page of notes of this, and I would say this is probably my third overall time watching this episode, because I remember watching the first episode with you not too long after it came out the first time.
Hmm.
And then I think we were showing it to a family member, so we watched it again. But this is
Yes.
my first time in at least 2 years seeing it.
Hmm.
And so I was surprised with how much I actually remembered almost word for word in some of the spots, but in other spots that I don't remember. Like, yeah, I mean, of course, we saw the full episode, before doing this discussion right here, but I didn't remember the episode being this long. So it was interesting revisiting it,
Yes.
especially now having seen the full series.
Hmm. It is. It is a very good. It was very nice to revisit it. I kind of like you. I think I'd seen it twice, and so to watch it this other time, it was interesting to watch. Of course, knowing the dynamics of the cast now as the series is ending, and the unfortunate thing that's happened with, of course, the one of the main characters in the show. It was interesting to see how people were introduced in the show and to see how some of the characters remain the same and others kind of changed along the way.
Yeah, that is so true. And so in this episode, yeah, we're actually brought into the episode, with the character of Kat, immediately breaking the fourth wall and speaking directly with us. And so in this episode and throughout the season, we see her, you know, pretty frequently, breaking the fourth wall and speaking directly to us, and sometimes and even in the middle of scenes. And definitely not for everyone, but I personally love it.
Actually, I like it too. I mean, just to be able to have the characters speak to us directly, I think is really great.
Yeah, and what's funny is that from the way it sounds like is that we don't even start off directly where the plot starts off, and so it starts off in the, I guess this had already happened, and so Kat is bringing us back up to speed, but she actually starts off us off with the immediate stuff as opposed to how we even got here. And
Hmm.
so even though that does come later, I find it fun that we're brought straight to the center of the action, and then we're given the backstory about how, yeah, Kat opened the cafe after her father passed away, and left her stable job of being, like you said, a math professor, and really set the scene for the series.
Yep, that is true too.
And something I found interesting was that in this one, it establishes Kat of having the best friend of Tara, and Tara is not really a character I remember in the series, and so but the relationship between Kat and Tara definitely seems interesting, as Tara is her best friend, but seems rather controlling as opposed to Kat's more relaxed and easygoing tone.
Yeah, and there's something else that I'm just thinking about now, Brandon, is that Randy was not invited to this wedding, which kind of makes you wonder where Randy kind of fits in the scheme of things with Tara, because you kind of assume that Randy is Kat's best friend, or at least later in the series, Randy is Kat's best friend. And I don't recall, and we'll of course have to watch again the first series, this series to begin again to see if Tara actually pops back up, or whether or not this is just a one-time episode where she's in just to kind of get everything going.
Yeah, yeah, that's something I did note too. And yeah, in this recent rewatch, is that while we do see and explore Phil, the baker for the cafe, we don't really see a lot of Randy. But in the scenes that Randy's in, I think
Mhm.
she stands out in the scene.
Yep, Randy does stand out in the scene. I think she does.
Yeah, and so it's definitely, I mean, interesting going through this, and yeah, and my thoughts. And so yeah, and something else I'd like to mention is how, through all of this, that we see very much like Kat's personality through both, yeah, her storytelling, and something I love is her clumsiness, the physical comedy in this. Mind Bialik does a great job with that, but also that, I mean, even the storytelling purposes, how we get, you know, scenes from the past, and then we're in the, in the present day, and then she trips on something or knocks over something, or I love that.
Yeah, the physical comedy, even though I think I recognize it, I didn't recognize it as much until I rewatched the first episode and some of the physical comedy that she did do within that particular episode.
Yeah, and something I would say too is that is Kat is somewhat jealous um, of Max's ex, Brigitte. And so even though Brigitte's not necessarily here, she's imagining her personality. And so it's kind of fun to see that, because it Brigitte is just sort of taunting her, but she's not there.
Yeah, it is. It is fun to see how Kat imagines Brigitte and how she thinks Brigitte will act with Max, or how she perceives that Brigitte was with Max.
Yeah, and I would honestly say that, I mean, this was just such an interesting watch, and I'm going over my notes real quick to see if there's anything else I really wanted to, I guess, mention in this. And I would just say that I love that, like, how comfortable Kat is with being herself, and that, she doesn't, like, there's certain comfortabilities that she would love to explore, like, yeah, having a plus one, and having what she describes as like, oh, the perks of, being with someone. But she likes her life, that she likes everything that she's doing, and she really wouldn't change anything.
No, she wouldn't. She really likes the way she is. She lets her mother know. I think, yeah. So, which is kind of fun to watch the relationship between she and her mother and how that kind of grows in the later seasons. I know typically you asked me if I continue watching, but we kind of established that we continued watching this from 21 forward, and so we do enjoy the show.
Yeah, I definitely would too. And to add on to that, so like, after having seen just this first episode again, yeah, a couple months after the series ended, I guess, what are some of your takeaways and thoughts, having, I mean, seen this again?
Well, my takeaways now is that I probably would watch, even though I watched the show all the way through, I probably would focus on Carter and Randy now, as characters to kind of watch develop, because to me, I think both their characters developed a lot. I know Kat developed as a character later, but I think both Randy and Carter, who I didn't really pay attention to Carter at first, besides being just a good friend, I think I would watch them next to see how the show kind of focuses on them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, both of them have been my standout characters in the most recent season. And so I would definitely love to do that. And honestly, after watching this episode, I was really tempted. Yeah, if we didn't have to do this, we probably would have. But I was really tempted to just rewatch season one again, just because, I mean, it just sort of had this charm to it that I don't think a lot of shows really have.
Yep, it does have a nice charm. I think for the type of TV that we watch, Brandon, or at least the type of TV that we watch, it kind of fits into the scheme of what we watch and share some with what our audience is kind of figuring out the type of family shows that we do like to watch.
Yeah, I mean, this is yeah such a fun show, and I'm so glad that it was able to continue on as long as it did. And while the series has recently concluded, I am excited to hopefully go back and rewatch some of these great episodes with you.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, but like I said, actually, something I want to note before we end this out is that even though the show does not have a theme song in the traditional sense, it does have the little, probably 15-second introductory theme. And so, what were your thoughts about going back and seeing that now that we've seen the different one that the
That
later two seasons have?
Well, I honestly didn't remember the theme song. I knew it changed, and so, but I didn't know what it was originally. I could not remember what it was originally. So I guess that kind of says something a little bit about the theme song. So I mean, in rating wise, I'd have to give it maybe a 3 or 4 because it did not stand out. I do remember the later scene ones, but I don't know whether or not it's because it just ended, and so of course I remember what that is, even though it really isn't a theme song. It's just a couple words that kind of go in there. So theme song wise, I think overall it would just be a 3 or 4 because there really was not anything really there for a theme song, which is kind of disappointing since I like to sing along to the theme songs for all my shows.
Yeah, but overall, I really did. I mean, enjoy the show, and I mean, like I said, I just really think the series, especially this first season, is just so memorable. And like I said, this is just such a fun discussion to have with you again. And is there anything else that you would like to note about the show, especially like the fourth wall breaking? Is there anything that stands out to you in that regard?
Yes, one of the things that I do love about Cat is the ending. I love that they break the fourth wall at the end and that they do wave at us and they do a dance or something like that. And so, or sometimes they continue a scene, or show the background of the technical part of a scene. And so I absolutely love that they do the waving part. I think that's great. It kind of helps you connect as the audience at home.
Yeah, I know for me, like I love tuning in and I mean and seeing the show, like, and being able to see it, like I said, the cast members waving and even the guest cast, that comes in, being able to wave to the audience. And I mean, I think it just helps bring to that homey feel of the show that I absolutely love.
Yep, I love it too.
Yeah, and I mean something like you had mentioned too is I think something that stands out too is not only do they do that, but in the last about 2 or 3 seconds before we head to the credits, is that a lot of times they'll continue with the scene as if like everyone just happens to be here, and I mean I love it.
Yeah, I really like it too.
But yeah, but is there anything else that I mean that you want to say or point out for the show?
No, I just think the show they did a wonderful job of creating the characters and to follow through for the most part with the characters also. And then one of the things they also establish is that Kat's mother wants her to be in a relationship, and that's something they do explore later in the series.
Yeah, and something that I wanted to mention too is not only do I love the style of the show, the laughter that's included. That's something I personally love in shows, but I also love how they like location wise like set it in Kentucky, but always for this season like they stick with it, and that like they're proud to be located in Kentucky, and it's mentioned several times throughout the show, and with tiny nods of it hidden here and there.
Yeah, and actually, Brandon, I never even paid attention to where the show took place, so it's great that you picked up the Kentucky piece.
Yeah, that was I think like I said one of the pieces of magic attached to the show. But like I said, I'm just so glad that we were able to do this discussion.
Yep, same here, Brandon.
Yeah, well, be sure everyone to make sure you tune in and leave us your suggestions. We would love to add them to the bin.
Oh yes, please. Give us your suggestion. We'd love to add them to the bin so we can see what we could talk about next. I look forward to doing that again next week, Brand.
Yep, for with you as well. And until next time, have a great week, and I'll see y'all later.
All right, bye bye.